What has come out of that engagement was that use whatever leeway that you can, but ultimately the students must be aware that the end document that they will be evaluated upon is the proposal, and that will then be used as a way of assessing the mark that they'll get for this particular module, which is on the proposal. And I said, no, that's fine. So what we are going to do in the modules that we're covering for the next 2 weeks is to try and cover as much as we can concerning the theoretical aspects that are foundational to research, and that then will come out in the proposal. And then once we've done the 2 weeks, at the end of next week, I'm then going to release you, and I'm going to give you time. You will be able to, if you want to one-on-one consult with me, you'll then be able to be given an opportunity to say, listen, go and work for a period of a month, or I forget the timeline, but it's also in the letter that go and come up with a proposal, and then the proposal will then be the document that we work with concerning the assessment for the module that we are currently involved in. But I want to reiterate that at no point should you feel that you are alone in the process. It gets daunting, it gets challenging, but the aim really is to say whatever idea that you have, bring it forward, and maybe right at the end we can even have a session where people can share their ideas to say, this is what I want to do, and then we find a way of channeling it and making sure that we have some form of a platform which is non-threatening. And that's going to be a lot easy if we get these 2 weeks out of the way, because the 2 weeks are going to lay a foundation of some of the things, particularly tomorrow when we cover the actual proposal development. Today we're going to talk about you as a person who's about to embark on this journey, and some of the things that you need to be aware of as you embark on this journey, number one. But some of the things that you need to also be aware of, the changes that are about to happen, particularly to yourself as a person, and in whatever role that you occupy, because it's a commitment to be engaged in a doctorate and or even any pursuit of study like a master's or a PhD. It's a real commitment, and I think sometimes we miss that point in terms of what we are about to engage in, and we must reflect on that, because what I want to reflect on tonight is getting you as the researcher to be prepared about the things that are about to happen to you, in view also of the challenge before us. So while the other laptop is almost finished setting up, it's ready now, I also want to then just reiterate, this is something we do traditionally with some of our younger students. We like to talk about the rules everybody should be aware of. I think online learning allows us the platform. If you want to say something, just raise your hand, or you can speak, I don't mind, as long as it just doesn't degenerate into some chaos or something. But as long as we also have a very comfortable space where people can share their thoughts and views. I will make content available. By content, I'm talking about the presentations and the videos. That's one. By content, I'm also talking about other resources that I may have shared. Like last night, we had a very nice session on academic writing made easy. We can share that content with you. And what I want you to do with the other things that I'm doing is to just feed into it to help your work. We will not be able to cover everything in these 2 weeks, but if you can rely also on what we are also doing in other platforms. And another big challenge that I hope we'll be able to manage very well is I am aware that there may be resource challenges in the context, particularly with MSU, in terms of accessing latest journal articles and resources. So what we will do is a very staggered approach because I may have access to these things as we go on. Maybe once we finish the next component, last module part next week, individually, people will have to give me an indication of what areas that they are working on. And I will then have to use Dropbox to access the latest journal articles, just so that you could have a head start. And I know this experience very well because I'm supervising also at Great Zimbabwe and MSU. And one of the challenges that we often have is access to some of these resources which are readily available for us here. So we will have to find a way of making sure that we get those to you. And then finally, before we start, I wish to also declare my area of interest is within the branch of HR, organizational behavior, and strategy. My background is actually in industrial psychology, and I did a bit of strategy work, and that's how probably those areas of interest come about. So I will not be able to be an expert in some of the areas. So, for instance, if you come to me and you say your topic is in finance, where possible, I may have to consult one or two colleagues to say, look, this is a topic, I'm not well versed in this topic. But what we should not run away from are the foundational things that are covered in concerning research. So even if you're in ops, you're in supply chain or whatever branch, leadership will maybe fall under OB, so it's a bit easier. But just to declare that I'm not an expert in everything. I will just provide some form of guidance to help you, and where possible, maybe within the program, some experts will exist to try and be able to help you. Okay, so I've said a mouthful. So what I'm going to put up on the screen now is the PowerPoint presentation for tonight, which I am going to send you anyway, so you don't have to worry. The presentation is being recorded. Perfect. So we can share the screen, and then you'll be able to see the presentation, which you should be able to see. And the next thing, okay, so you see the presentation, and that's fine, right? You see the presentation? And we are recording. Okay, I think you're able to see it. Okay, so tonight we kick off by talking about you as a person. And I think you're an important constituent to this activity that you're about to engage in. And so we mustn't take it lightly that we must get you ready. Okay, we must get you ready for this ball that you're about to engage in. And it's not an easy task. Somebody was telling me it's only a few percentile of people who are able to embark on this journey and finish. And in my reflection, I often think of even classmates who I will talk about later on in the experience, who have started this journey and may have had struggles in being able to finish. So not to intimidate or scare anyone, but the reality is that there needs to be a certain mindset that is needed, and that's what we're trying to talk about tonight. In reflecting on tonight, I always would like to remind us of some of the issues that we are going to cover. Ultimately, at the end of all of this, we're going to try and give you a little snippet of how to prepare for and plan for your research project, what you need to do. And for that, I also refer to some of my previous teachings, which are online, which you can refer to. I also want to find yourself positioning yourself within the landscape of doctoral studies, to ask to imagine and believe that this is going to be possible, and thinking of ways of making it possible, and then reflect on the idea of success, which is, I think, is critical. It's not success without challenge, but it's success with challenge. Reflecting on your own doctoral journey, my doctoral journey, and the experiences, that reflexivity, which is a concept we're going to introduce at the end. And then we're going to talk about this issue of identity development, where you are an important cog in the machinery before us. You must have your own voice. I often hear a good sign of troubled students, especially now when we're about to register. Students come to you and say they want to do a PhD. We've got a PhD, good program in PhD in business management. And students come to you and say, listen, I want to do the PhD, but I don't have an idea of what I want to do. Why don't you just give me a topic so that I can engage in this, and then I'll be able to do it. And sometimes this is really a recipe for disaster, if you ask me, because in most cases, the voice of the student, by virtue of that suggestion, becomes silenced by the virtue of saying the supervisor is going to tell me what I need to do. And once that happens, in most cases, it becomes very difficult for the student to always emerge with a voice. We're also going to talk about supervisor selection. Now, I need to tell you here, I don't know how this is going to be done. My contractual assignment here is to assist you in the module. Maybe later on I'll find out to say how is this going to be done. But we're also going to talk about ways in which you can identify potential supervisors. And then finally, resilience. In organizational studies, we're beginning to talk about this. I've just had a book chapter published in Springer, where we were looking at resilience, particularly in response to challenges around COVID, 4IR in the organization, and how do people really develop this resilience to help them work forward. And you need that resilience. Okay, that's it. And then let's start with a meet and greet. Just briefly go around, tell me who you are, your professional role, how was your Easter weekend, what did you do, did you get some rest, and finally, what are you interested in researching? It's not going to be final or set in stone, but it's going to be something that is malleable and changing over time that we want really to work at. So I'll go first. Willie Chinyamurindi is my name. I am a full professor at the University of Fort Hare in the Department of Business Management, and also currently serving as the HOD. My Easter weekend was very laid back. I got some time to rest, spent time at home with the family, and currently I'm interested in researching aspects related to dynamic capabilities, how they form and how they sustain organizational performance, and particularly issues of sustainability. So I'll just ask us to go around just briefly so that you may know each other, but I don't know some of you, and I want to use this platform as a way of getting to know some of you. Or should I call names as they appear on my screen? So I think let's start with user with the name HP.
Through you, Prof, I'm sure maybe he may not be able to know how his name is appearing to assist. That's Mr. Dambuka Jackson, who has got username HP.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, sure. I couldn't really know that that's how it is coming up. My name is Jackson Dambuka, and I'm the operations manager with the POSB. My Easter, well, it was a hectic one. I was Kumushao doing the harvesting. Generally, that's what I was doing. It was really hectic. Then with regards to my area of research that I'm interested in, I want something to do with the artificial intelligence in banking, how it can at least help delivering efficiency and effective service, something like that. That's generally what I intended to research on. In a nutshell, Prof, that's me.
Okay, thanks a lot. What I'll also do is, I think this will be a useful exercise to start also preparing those literature articles. So I will be making notes, especially with the names and the areas that you're interested. So you've actually helped there. Thanks a lot, Mr. Dambuka.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, let's go to Martin Mazaride.
Thank you, Prof. Through you, and greetings to all the colleagues. Nice meeting you all after quite such a long time. My name is Martin Mazaride, and I'm the Human Resources Manager for a manufacturing company, which is down right in Onde Valley, close to the border to Mozambique, in Eastern Highlands. And so I'm in human resources. And during my Easter holidays, it was really quite cool in view of the facts of, this whole story of staying at home. So it was time to be with the family. And I think, look, it was time to reflect and also reflect on exactly what I intend to do in terms of, the research, the field, but rather I'm looking at doing some research in unionism. In other words, in workers' unionism side of things, a revitalization of unions to come up with a model to that effect. That's the area, Prof. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Let's go to the surname hasn't completed, so it's Stanford N. There. So, Mr. Stanford.
Thank you. The full name is Stanford Ngonizashedewe. So I'm sure maybe because of the length, that's why it was cut short, but it's DEHWE. The brief background on myself, I'm in charge of projects with the Premier Service holding company, which is the holding company for Premier Service Medical Aid Society, PSMAS, and the Premier Service PSMI, who are in the healthcare insurance and the healthcare sector, sectors respectively. That's my professional role. And as far as my Easter weekend is concerned, yeah, I didn't do much COVID restriction. And also maybe taking also time to on a number of issues professionally, academically, and I also then managed to went through the videos that you shared so that I could prepare myself for this and this coming semester. So as far as my thesis and research is concerned, like I mentioned, I'm into project management, and I still want to add new knowledge in as far as the agile project management in infrastructural development projects in Zimbabwe, looking at the ongoing vision and focus of the, so that we could rebuild and rebound and make Zimbabwe great once again. That's about me in brief.
Thank you, sir. Let's go to, who do we have next? Toko. I don't know, the user it's written Toko, so I'm not sure, but maybe they'll come through. Mishike.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mishikuda Kwashi.
There's an echo there, sir, in the background.
Okay, hello?
Yes, okay.
Yes, I was, can you hear me now?
Yes, it's much better.
Yes, my name is Mishikuda Kwashi. And then my profession, I'm an accountant by profession. Over the Easter holiday, I had time to be with the family. Then we went out and we had a nice time with the kids. Since they were on holiday also from school, so it was the time to be with the family. And then basically on the area of interest for my research, I'm interested in researching on entrepreneurship, basically looking at the relationship between running small businesses and the financial well-being.
Thank you,
I think
sir.
that's all I can say.
Thank you very much. I think let's come back to Toko if you're available now. Okay, not working. I think it's Philemon here.
Good evening, Prof.
Yes.
Good evening, colleagues. My name is Philemon Machana. I am founder and group CEO of Conjute Holdings. During Easter, I was just like many other guys that have spoken before me. It was actually time to just rest, see it because of the COVID issues that are restricting traveling, but it also gave us an opportunity to rest at the same time. In areas of research, Prof, which I'm trying to look at, I'm looking at shareholder activism as it relates and affect the governance and the effectiveness of organizations. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Shareholder activism. Okay. Governance. Right. Let's go to Etilda.
Thank you very much, Prof. My name is Etilda Paida Samario. I am the managing director of Poshi Creative Group, which is a company that specializes in digital marketing. During the Easter weekend, I was with my family. We didn't travel out of Harare, we just around, and it was good and peaceful. On my research project, I'm interested in digital marketing, how it has disrupted the broadcast media, how it is affecting the formulation of strategies, the implementation and the practice of traditional broadcasts. That's my area of interest. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. I think let's go to Asia and Sarah.
Thank you, Prof. And certainly, how are you and welcome to MSU. As way of introduction, just to say that your former BESA at MSU, the immediate past BESA, but currently finance director now for Zinara. Easter hanging around, but like a good old accountant, carried a few carry worms, check worms, and did a few works out in the garden. And the area of interest remains in management of public money, particularly the area of confidence or lack thereof. So that's my area. Thank you, Prof.
Thank you for that, sir. It's then we go. I think it's forward. Yeah, the synonyms are not incomplete, but it's forward, Kufa.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. My name is Forward Kufakunesu. I am a finance lecturer at Catholic University of Zimbabwe. Over the Easter holidays, I had enough rest, but I was busy going through your YouTube videos. You were quite interesting. My research area of interest is tax compliance. Tax authorities tend to rely on punishment rather than rewards. So they base their actions on the deterrence model. So I just wanted to see whether it is possible to develop a new model which is more taxpayer friendly, which is not about coercion and penalties, fines, and prosecution. Okay, that is my research area, Prof. Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you. I think it's Panze Sibanda.
I think it's someone who borrowed a laptop.
Oh,
that could be an
Yeah,
intruder.
sure. Yeah, sure. It's me. It's me. Someone has just sorted for me. Good evening, Prof. Good evening, colleagues.
good evening, sir.
My name is Hosea Gadzai. That is my name. Then I'm currently the head of administration in the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission. That is Deputy Executive Secretary responsible for administration. During the Easter holidays, I was at home doing some gardening, some exercises, and also I had the time to go through the YouTube videos. My area of interest is in the management of public assets, especially on the government side. That is basically who I am. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is it Asha Jenje?
Yeah, certainly so, Prof. Thank you so much. Like you said, my name is Asha Jenje. I'm probably the oldest in this class. And I was expecting Paida to say something there. My profession, I'm into public finance management. I'm from the Parliament Budget Office. And during Easter holiday, yeah, I traveled a lot. And for me not to be victimized, I'm not going to say where I went, but it was in search for Jesus anyway. Then lastly, in terms of my area of interest, it's on budget transparency and accountability for sustainable economic development or growth. Yeah, in a nutshell, I think that's what I can say, Prof. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. And Manuel Marozwa.
Yes, greetings to you, Prof, and greetings, colleagues. We meet again after such a long time. My name is Manuel Marozwa. I'm currently teaching in Botswana in some university. My Easter, it was okay. I was here. Again, I was affected by these COVID restrictions. I couldn't move, but I find I managed to get some rest, though you never rest fully. Then my area of interest is I want to look at the challenges that leaders could be going through, especially now during times of COVID restrictions, where their movement is restricted. And especially here in Africa, where also connectivity is not that good. Yeah, that's my area.
Thank you, sir. And Kenan Dube.
Thank you very much, Prof. And good evening, colleagues, and good to see you. Who I am, Kenan Dube, and known as advocate by the colleagues attending. My professional role, it's a mixture of quite a bit. Prof, I am a lawyer by choice. I am a lecturer by imposition, and I am a commercial business leader by passion, and I am a married person by God's grace. What did I do over Easter? My mom is actually ill. She's 99 years old and here with us in Harare. I had to trek down to the village in Chiwi to see how things were panning out without the our old lady being there. And what is my area of interest, Prof? I would like to find out whether it is leadership quality or a leadership type or a leadership style which define leadership effectiveness, efficiency, efficacy, and all the three combining to determine organizational performance in the form of success and impacts. That is my area of research, but limited to listed entity leadership. Thank you, Prof. That is the summary of who I am.
Thank you for that. Is it Ray Munangwa?
Prof, how are you?
I'm doing well, and you, sir?
I think I'm doing better than you. My name, as you have rightly pointed out, is Ray Munangwa. I am the Human Resources Executive for a coal mine, the biggest coal mine in the country, somewhere in the western part of the country. I enjoy my job. And I think in 2 or 3 years, I should retire and work on something else. Easter was a bit challenging for me. I had to travel to Harare, where my family lives. And, you know, you spend most of the times on the road. The toll gates here are a big challenge. You have to navigate your way through the toll gates. But eventually I got there and my family was very happy. My children are now old enough to work for themselves. They are 3, and some of them are out of the country. I'm happy they have gone out. My area of interest really is to do with innovative work behavior in the mining industry. The particular area of interest is, as it says, innovation. But I want to concentrate on the lower levels, the shop floor employees. Literature so far has shown a bias towards innovative work behaviors of senior people in organizations, as if to say the shop floor employees are not innovative. So I want to investigate how far this can happen and help in the development of the mining industry sector. I hope that satisfies everyone. Thank you, Prof.
Thank you, sir. Cornwell Mujuru. Cornwell Mujuru.
Okay. Thank you very much, Prof. Good evening, everyone. My name is Cornwell Mujuru, as alluded to by the professor. For Easter, I was busy at work. I'm the finance director for Broadcasting Authority of Zimbabwe. That's a brief background of myself. Then in terms of my area of research, I'm focusing on artificial intelligence. I have a background in education, so I realized that the book industry is being destroyed by piracy. So I'm working on algorithms that will enable a paper to self-destruct if photocopied. That's briefly who I am, Prof. Thank you.
Wow, that's interesting. And I was just thinking, I wish there was a way we could have people who self-destruct when you don't want them in your presence, to say, this one, I don't want them around, let them self-destruct. Thank you for that. I don't know, Martin, we had, is it a claybore, a map? Is it? Yeah, okay, there we
Hello,
go.
it's Clever Tarsisius Mafumo is my name. How are you,
Apologies.
Professor? And
I'm fine, thank you. Apologies for butchering your name there. Sorry about that.
no, don't worry, don't worry. Hello, everyone. So I'm head of channel marketing at Delta Beverages. In terms of what I was doing over the Easter holiday, we had a couple of board meetings that scheduled, so I was busy preparing for those over the whole holiday. And looking at my area of study, I think I had two areas, actually, one in marketing and the other one around the sustainable development. But I think I'll pursue the one around sustainable development, particularly looking at how the community-based organizations can be sustainable towards and contribute towards the overall sustainable development.
Awesome. Thanks a lot. It's Nyahumira Ton. Nyahumira.
Might be on the road to Bindura.
Okay, okay. Totally understand. Anybody else? I think, is it Mpehla?
Good evening, everybody.
Oh, there we go. Good evening, sir.
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much, Prof. Good evening, colleagues. My name is Tondrai Nyahumira. I am the Deputy Director, Hospital Planning and Project Management with Ministry of Health and Child Care. Over the Easter holiday, I was at home in Bindura, as my colleague has alluded to, with my family. Concerning the area of my interest in terms of research, I'm interested in pursuing a research in ethical leadership in the public health sector. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Chamu Mufuma. I don't see the audio link there. Okay. Anybody else who I may have skipped, you're welcome to unmute yourself and then go ahead.
I've unmuted myself.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
This is Stanley.
Stanley. Okay, let's go with Stanley and then we'll come back to the others.
Good evening, Prof. Good evening, colleagues. Quite a long time no see, no hear. Except for Ken and Dube, I kind of peeped into him yesterday when he was attending another session. My professional role, I'm in general management. Currently, I'm running a company which is doing electric vehicles in Zimbabwe, known as Build Your Dreams. So maybe some of you have heard about that. And of course, I'm also running my small company on the side. My Easter holiday was mainly at home, a little bit of gardening and enjoying the family. I'm interested in doing a research which is looking at evolutionary dynamics within the financial services sector, with particular emphasis on the effects of disruptive technologies. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is it Mpehla?
Good evening, Prof, and all the colleagues. My name is Mpehla Joshua Malinga. Professional role, I'm a retired politician and also a businessman. I run a small fleet of trucks, but also involved in gold mining and trying to start up a new mining venture in Zimbabwe currently. My whole Easter, I was traveling for business in Zimbabwe. I'm based in Joburg, by the way. but I had come to Zimbabwe to set up a new mining venture over the whole holiday, processing documents and being on the ground. My topic of interest is ethical leadership in the mining sector, which is where I am at the moment. Because mining itself involves, the degradation of the environment. So it's hard to be a miner and be ethical at the same time. Also, the laws of our mining from Zimbabwe, some of them are from Rhodesian days and haven't been updated up to now. So that's my main topic of interest. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Anyone else who we may not have given a chance? Go ahead. Okay, Toko.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Prof. I think initially my speaker was not working. My name is Toko Rugube. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a co-director of a company called Olican Holdings, which is involved in engineering and mining. Over the Easter weekend, I was just refreshing. I spent the whole Easter out in the bush fishing. Then my area of study, I'm interested in intellectual property rights, in protecting business knowledge and challenges involved in doing so in Zimbabwe. That's my area. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Okay, anyone else I may have omitted?
Yes, Prof. So my name is Humphrey Sanokwe. In terms of profession, I'm currently serving as the PEPFAR country coordinator for Haiti in the Caribbean. In terms of Easter, nothing much, just a bit of research work that I am trying to conclude. In terms of areas for research, it's basically within the broader realm of industrial psychology. I'm trying to unpack and speak to issues of employee regenerative capacity. And I'm basically trying to look at some of the already existing measures and see how best I can integrate them. Of course, using the bifactor confirmatory factor analysis and also some of the predictive statistics. Yeah, I think that's where I'm focused on. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Okay, anyone else? Okay, awesome. Colleagues, I thank you for this exercise. It's gone very long, but I'm appreciative to the wide array of talent that we have here. And this is just amazing. For me, some of the names are names I probably grew up listening to. I'm probably I'm a born free basically, but it's an awesome privilege and an honor to be surrounded by such amazing people who are doing great things, and also the experience that you are bringing in from your different careers and paths that you've taken is going to come in very handy. I want to just then shoot straight into the focus for today, and I will send the slides to you. I sent some readings last week, which you can read, but I'm going to offer some reflections on those readings a little bit later on. So a couple of years ago, I wrote an article which was published in the Mail and Guardian. That was just 2015, and it got a lot of talk and conversations going on, particularly at that time. I mean, there were a lot of stories around public servants who were buying people to, to do PhD, to write PhD dissertation thesis for them. and so forth. And it's something that has been continuing in some countries overseas. There are mills that run where there are people who literally are tasked with the responsibility of creating these PhD holders. So I've put the article there, and you're welcome to go and actually download it and read it. But one of the things that I was arguing in that piece was that the journey that you are all about to begin, personalize it and own it. And realizing that the challenges that you're going to go through, even if it's challenges not necessarily related to the project, but challenges related in work-life balance and so forth, please appreciate them as part of this experience that you're about to undertake. Regrettably and sadly, one of the challenges that is affecting most people who are about to embark on this journey relates to mental health issues. To the extent I know of 2-3 colleagues who in the last couple of months either have been diagnosed for mental health illness, and or 3 years ago, one of our colleagues took their lives about this very lonesome journey. And it doesn't have to be like that, but unfortunately, due to the experience of how the high attention to detail needed, it may also be isolating and difficult. So I am not intending to scare you by saying so, but please, 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 let us also be cognizant and take care of our own mental well-being, support systems. And I like the friendships that I saw right at the start, where people can ask, how are you? Explain A, B, C, and D. Those are the type of things that we need, where people can also liaise and meet. I am probably, I'm in South Africa, but I do make trips to Zimbabwe. So whenever I make a trip, I do some workshops, Great Zimbabwe at MSU. It will also be an honor and a privilege to meet some of you, and also in addition to the email engagements that we're going to have. So my journey for the PhD, I had 3 supervisors. I did my PhD in the UK at a university called the Open University Business School in a town, a city called Milton Keynes, which is a very nice little community. But the experience was enriching, because I probably was a little, and we don't use this word, but because it's been used in the South African context in a very bad way by Mr. Tony Leon, former Democratic Alliance leader. But I was like a little project, an experiment for some of my supervisors, in the sense that it was their first time they were exposed to a student from a different context altogether. So having had studied in South Africa and made a turn in Dublin, stayed in Dublin for 2 years, and then moved across the sea to the UK, and then bam, I'm here with these 3 supervisors who I've grown to respect so much in their own development, but to also let you know that part and parcel of the journey of this reflection that you will need to have is realizing that the PhD, in as much as it's an individual project, there's also a lot of co-ownership that must happen between the range of stakeholders that we'll talk about as we go on in the different modules. So I had 3 supervisors. So you must imagine, when I sent in a manuscript, each of the supervisors brought a different angle, and it was like, as somebody once said to me, it's like having 3 wives, and you often wonder, how does somebody in a polygamous relationship manages the different wide arenas that they may belong to and constituents that they had. So for me, one of the things that I had to quickly get out of the way was to realize that it wasn't going to be easy. But it was a necessary process, because each of these people brought a great deal of expertise. And one of the things I want to leave with you as we move from this slide is try and make sure that whoever you're going to work with has some form of grasp and understanding. So I note here, for instance, Hosea, spoke about public finance and issues of governance. I have no clue whatsoever. Those areas. Etilda spoke about issues of broadcasting. Forward spoke about issues of tax compliance. You know, it becomes nice for us as supervisors sometimes to say, I've got a student, but try and make sure that there's that match that happens between you and the person you're going to work with, because the expertise is going to come in handy towards the process. And this is the point I'm making. And how do you know that match? Well, for us academics, it's easy, because whatever that I'm working on currently is used as an attraction or a magnet to the type of students that I'm going to interest to follow my work. So pay attention to the faculty that are available within MSU, who's researching on what. Sometimes the areas of research do not necessarily have to be the interest areas that you've cited. Sometimes the areas can have to do with methods. I did my PhD using narratives, storytelling within understanding organizational behavior, which was quite fascinating, because at that time I'd been reading quite a lot of work by another great Zimbabwean, Love Mombigi, who used to at least talk a lot about fusing African methods of understanding or African methods of conveying messages into how we do research. And so methods also are critical. I think the last speaker is Humphrey, spoke about you know, the quantitative analysis in the models that he wants to test within industrial psych. So those also are areas of expertise that you can gather. And we'll talk about freeing also ourselves from methods of investigation. Sometimes we often have to trap students to think all they need to do is a survey. You don't necessarily have to do a survey. There are other options that are there, and also freeing yourself to that. Sometimes experience with a particular technology becomes critical and is a way of attracting the right supervisor. So the colleagues who spoke about artificial intelligence, I like the idea of the paper that self-destructs once photocopied. You know, those are interesting angles that may require fascinating contributions from people who are well versed with that. I've recently accepted a visiting professor position at the University of Johannesburg on their 4IR research team. And one of the things they wanted in that brief was that we need somebody who can fuse ideas of work psychology, business management, strategy within the 4IR location of the work. And that's the type of talk that I'm trying to encourage you to focus on, that we work in a very interdisciplinary, transdisciplinary environment where the work that we do is fused and stems from different types of branches and schools of thought. What you need to make sure somehow is making sure that whoever is going to be steering the ship, which is you, but also whoever is going to be supporting you in that process is well versed with what you're going to talk about. And then the other thing which can be very emotive, which we are doing here, is sometimes having some form of contract of agreement between a student and a supervisor. Again, we're still talking about the person, which is you. Now, some institutions insist that a contract be signed. Other institutions are not so big on the idea, but it has some advantages and disadvantages. The obvious advantage is that it keeps things in check in terms of the turnaround. I know sometimes people complain, I sent work to my supervisor and my supervisor hasn't responded in 6 weeks, 7 weeks. So what we often do in our contracts of employment, of agreement between students and supervisors, we put a turnaround time to say, supervisor, I send you work, within 2 weeks you must respond. Others have a shorter time period to say within 5 days you must respond. So think about those things to also protect yourself. But obviously you're not just protecting yourself. It could also work against you in that if you are not covering it well, it could also be used as a burden on your part to say, look, you are also not keeping your end of the bargain, and which becomes very difficult in your sense because some of you are professionals, all of you are professionals in different areas, so it might be also cognizant of how you're going to go around managing that. And then, of course, identity development requires us to talk about expectations. All of us have got different expectations to this process. Some expectations are realistic, some are not, some will need to be refined. They say in the kingdom of hope, there is no winter. So if I were to say after the process, I want work done within a month, someone might say, no, a month is too much, I can have it done in a week, whatever. But the difficult part is that we all are going to be dealing with expectations. I will have certain expectations of you, you have certain expectations of me. Ideally, we must set those expectations. And with supervisors, it's obviously agreeing when do we meet, how do we meet. I think this has been made a lot easier by the technology that we can meet online. But importantly, every aspect of this journey you're about to engage in is framed by the idea of expectations. Let's try to be realistic, but also at the same time, let's not lag behind and not enjoy the challenge that accompanies this process. We need to be proactive, and I think this is critical. In the sometime next week, I will show you ways you can be proactive, resources that you could use that are free of charge, online resources to help you with your literature search, to help you belong to certain communities or groups, one of which is called a listserv, which is a free platform where you can join. The only tricky part about a listserv sometimes is that you because of time zones. So the guys in Australia can post a comment. Recently, I was looking for a certain collaboration for someone in India. And so I went to a listserv and I wrote, introduced myself. And within 2 hours of writing, I didn't have any response. But sometime around 3 a.m. The following day, I had loads and loads of responses because in the other side of the world, someone who is in India was waking up and all of that. So those are just useful platforms, and we must talk about this. So one of the things which is critical is keeping ahead with the literature. Now, I probably am tasked with the responsibility of trying to teach you a language that you may not be well familiar with, some of you, which is academese language, where you will be very puzzled that why should I write a certain way? Why should I convey my thoughts and ideas in a certain way? The reality is that the DBL is being offered by an institution of higher learning. And because it's being offered by an institution of higher learning, there are set norms and conventions that should govern the offering and also the standards through which we are expected to be part of it. So as demands press on supervisors, demands will press on you. Try and be proactive. I wrote there a saying that some of you will know, which literally translated, the child who does not die who does not cry rather will die on the back of the mother or the father, if you like. But I did this workshop in Lesotho, Swaziland, in Tanzania, Uganda, and this saying was common in those contexts. And the idea basically is this idea of being proactive. The idea also of being proactive is borrowed from, I read a lot of books by an author called Malcolm Gladwell. Really, you are about to battle with a giant. And in that book called David and Goliath, he talks about how misfits in terms of their size will often win the day in tackling giants. So that's just side reading that will just help you along the way. And then Conflict will be inevitable, conflict with yourself, conflict with partners, spouses, children. It's a game of competing for attention. Everybody wants your attention. Sometimes when I travel, I think it's always tough to try and explain to people what I do, because what people then see is me taking a picture of the Great Zimbabwe or the Victoria Falls, and they say, oh wow, he's having a nice time. But the real issue is dealing with the perceived conflicts and fallouts that may happen, with people not understanding why is he always spending time, or she's spending time on the laptop. What's the story there? What's the fascination with this laptop? So keep a trail of evidence for your own reflexivity. Try not to burn bridges. Seek mediation if some things are going wrong. There are platforms through which this happens. Seek for clarity. I think from next week onwards, when I release you to go and attempt a proposal, if you're struggling, Prof, I'm struggling in accessing literature on project management, in infrastructure development, or workers' unionism, or AI in banking, speak now, and so that we can find ways to try and help you. I want to end by also telling you that for me, being an academic has been very rewarding. It's something that I'm enjoying, not because it pays well, but because it's afforded me some opportunities. And being a Zimbabwean academic, it's also afforded me a way of traveling and seeing other Zimbabweans and scholars all over the world, and interacting, it's a huge experience that has helped me. I'm a twin, and so one of the things I love about being a twin, my twin brother appreciates the passion that I have about what I do, is that I believe in each and every one of you and the task that you're about to engage. And my role is not to make your experience be similar to mine. My experience of doing a PhD overseas, my experience of working as an academic in a very historically rich and yet historically disadvantaged university, those are my experiences that I've managed to shape my journey. But part of the identity work that must happen on this DBL that you're engaging on is your own personalization story of your experience. How are you going to write the chapters in that book that you're going to write about this experience? And in so doing, I want to end by commenting briefly on those readings, which I hope you'll be able to read. Some things just to excite you and also get you aware of. The first thing that you must do in the range of topics that each and every one of you have told me about, from leadership, innovative work behaviors in mining, artificial intelligence, sustainable development, ethical leadership, intellectual property, you name all these topics. All of these topics are located in wider discussions that are happening. This discussion may not be a discussion specific to you. Now, just because you want to research about the COVID-19 pandemic and its impact on certain work processes, it doesn't mean that there is nothing that you cannot borrow from different fields that can help you to launch your arguments. So one of the things that we must get out of the way as part of the identity work is try and understand and frame your study within a particular context. And a lot of you have done well in positioning the Zimbabwean context very well to say this is where you want to locate your work. But you must also think of the context of the discipline that you're going to locate your work, the conversations that are happening currently in that work. Now, the conversations themselves differ and change over time. A couple of months ago, we were talking about challenges posed by the COVID-19 pandemic, and a lot of people now are beginning to talk about opportunities that are created by the COVID-19 pandemic. So one of the things that was quite interesting yesterday, driving into work, I was listening, was it this morning, I was listening to Talk Radio 702, and one of the discussions they were talking about is a booming industry that has resulted out of the pandemic had to do with, and we are adults, so I can just throw it in, the industry of sex toys, which this reporter was actually arguing to say there is opportunity there, because in the sense that a lot of people are finding themselves confined, and those are types of the imaginative ideas that some of my colleagues have been talking about. We must also find what opportunities have emerged for business leaders out of the issue of the pandemic. I know of someone who is doing very well with delivering food, challenging most of the bigger markets or bigger players in that particular industry in the area that I live in. So remember, your work, your idea is not necessarily unique to yourself, but it's an idea that is located in the aspects, the epochs of time, history, and place. So bear that in mind to say what we are trying to make you do is to try and find some form of a contribution that warrants us saying, here is your DBL, because you've come out with something unique and innovative. And this is the fascinating bit, especially this idea of the paper that self-destructs after being photocopied and stuff. The innovation, it doesn't necessarily have to be the coming up of a new product to a market, but models of understanding, ways of understanding. So the spectrum, therefore, can become broad. You may not be interested in economics, but because your area branches into the aspects of economics, you may have to pay attention to that history. It's not about what you want, it's about what the context is guiding you and leading you towards. And that's an important identity work, I believe, that anybody who's engaging at a study, at a level as you are doing, must be cognizant of and be aware of. Then I gave you a second paper, which I love that paper because it's one of those easily downloaded paper, very important, very old, but still having relevance. David Wheaton writes in Academy of Management Review, AMR, and poses a question: what makes a contribution? Now, remember, the DBL is also governed by this idea of what contribution are you making that is new to our ways of understanding. And that becomes the guiding force. We'll talk about it tomorrow when we look at the full proposal, what it looks like. But the contribution becomes this important aim that you have in mind. If you're going to come up to us and say, I am researching aspects related to management of public funds, and one of the contributions that we have, Mr. Randasara, is of my work is to find that public corruption is rife in the public sector. Some will argue, and some of us young academics who may be sitting with these so-called celebrated and big professors during graduations when citations are being read, we like to joke. A senior professor steps up to the podium and is about to read a student citation who's getting a PhD, and they clear their throat, they stand up there and say, the student's work tells us that stress has a negative impact on job performance. And then we just nudge ourselves and we say, I could have told you that. I don't need a PhD to tell you that. What we need is for you to think in terms of what exactly do we want to bring so that people can understand. And some ideas here are quite fascinating. There are ideas around ethics within mining. Those are very contextual issues that may need understanding, to say, I want to narrow it to a particular sector. What type of innovative work behaviors are needed in a very highly corrupt context or a very highly challenging context. So the article by Wheaton, which I would advise you to read, you may not have read it today, but please read it. really seeks to answer Wheaton as response to say, what is a contribution? And in this case, contributions come at different levels. There is a theoretical contribution, which means that you are contributing to an understanding of knowledge. There are also conceptual contribution. You are introducing something new and innovative as a concept to mull over. There are also methodological contribution. If you can pinpoint an area of study and say, for instance, I know of somebody who came up with the idea of saying one of the challenges we have in collecting data is we presuppose with instruments like questionnaires, we give people predetermined selections. But we must find ways and voice of allowing people to express themselves. And this person came up with the idea of using drawings as a way of eliciting emotions and people narrating experience. And that became a methodological contribution. We will talk about that as we talk about the proposal. But that article by Wheaton, very key for you to reflect on. There's then the article by Aurora and colleagues, where they are talking about, well, the idea for me is just, let's not just accept, but also challenge assumptions. And it's easy and nice nowadays because if I compare where we were when I started my career as an academic 11, 12 years ago, we never challenged assumptions. We were given things set in stone to say this is how it is, and as a result, much of what we became reflectors of the people who taught us some of these things. We became reflectors of the professors who taught us. We became reflectors of even the books that we read, but the move nowadays is a move towards challenging the curiosity, the assumptions within disciplines, and that's what we need to think about. We don't want you to reinvent the wheel. We want you to come up with innovative ways of understanding complex problems that you are posing in that reflection that we had. And part and parcel of that journey is to do this within the context, but also have the muscle to stretch yourselves and say, I will free myself out of convention. This is how I'm going to do it. And part of the traps are methodological in nature. You don't always have to do surveys. There are other ways, action research, there's participatory methods, there are a range of methods to think about. And in that article, they are really challenging us to think about innovations in how we understand strategy. You can substitute the word strategy for management, for entrepreneurship, governance, whatever field that you're working on. So I'm not calling for a rejection of tradition and its assumptions, but really for the need to question such on the envelope of scientific reasoning and its relevance in the context that we're in. And this becomes important because what we just don't want is you to bring out another Eurocentric, Americanized way of understanding certain phenomena. We want to actually understand how does this work. I mean, the guy that I quoted, Love Mombigi, writes in one of his books how he introduced the NIMBE concept in as an organizational practice and behavior technique that he wanted people to be cognizant of, that can be used. And now in some parts in Germany and Scandinavian countries, you've got people then using some of those as concepts that are interesting to actually work with, to say this is a nice time to be alive, at least for me, because we are awakening to the importance that African scholars can make to a really, really colonial, imperial type of landscape, which is based on the values of those predominant countries. And this links with Gacheni Ndlovu's argument around knowledge being located in these colonial vestiges that exist around us. Reflexivity becomes therefore important. Reflexivity is a circular relationship of cause and effect. It's bi-directional, but reflexivity in this case is not necessarily reflexivity in the work that you're going to do, you are an important actor and agent in this reflexivity. Keep a diary as you reflect on your PhD. Find ways to meet up with colleagues and to discuss ideas that you're having. Think of the implications of your experience and in what it has in informing the type of scholar or practitioner that you want to be. And that's the type of reflexivity that we're talking about, because it creates an awareness, and you become awake and you become very cognizant of the importance of not negating these contextual situations. Finally, we must pay attention to technical issues. Technical issues in this case talk about writing. Last night I had a presentation where we were talking about writing. The video is now available, and I won't talk much about that, but you can go there. We talk about writing. It will get better with time, but remember, try and attempt. I mean, one of the things we spoke about last night was the 700-word rule. Try and make sure that in a day, you write at least 700 words, even 500, 400 if you're starting off. But the more you write, you then avoid the situation of being thought of as not speaking to the issues at hand. And then the last point is community. And all of what you guys have spoken about, as I look at these notes, have community in mind. And I think somebody put it very succinctly, that we want to make Zimbabwe great as it was. And I like that, because what it so links is that we are not doing this for our own individual pursuits and ambition, but we're also doing this to come and find ways of also making the context better or the community better. And in this paper by Mayer and Watson, I found a line which was quite fascinating. We have made the case that research, and in particular strategic management research, you can remove the word strategic management research and put whatever angle that you want, is a public social practice, and hence that knowledge is the product not of isolated individuals, but intersubjective relations between members of research communities. So ultimately, the work that we do must inform that audience. I think somebody was talking about the football match at the start, that let's congratulate the Warriors for qualifying. Imagine what it's like to be in the National Sports Stadium, packed to the brim, and you are walking in and everybody is cheering you along, and you are representing or carrying the weight of millions and millions of people who are hoping that you would represent them very well. And that's what the DBL is like. It is an awesome responsibility for you to come up with a contribution that helps. It also requires us, therefore, to be conforming to rules. It also requires us to also think of those who we are accountable to, families, friends, work groups, even the people who are going to trust us with this responsibility of saying, we want to tell you our stories of our experiences with whatever phenomena that you are studying. And this is the reason why we want to do it, because we trust that you are going to try and help us with what's going to help us to make us better. One of the things we try to avoid nowadays is research without this impact of benefiting community. When I apply for grants, local and international grants, one of the things that the funders always emphasize and want to see, how is this going to benefit the community, the wider community? Is this one of those exercises where you just go into a community, you collect data, you theorize, you get your DBL, you have a big party and a celebration, everybody's, you now carry across a title, doctor, and dare I add, you make people suffer because of that title to say, I'm a doctor. And why are we doing this? And the ultimate goal, colleagues, is this idea of community that Mayer and Watson talk about. The last point, I know I said last one, but this is the last one. we need more Afro-infused models to be tested, not necessarily models, but also ideas. A few months ago, while 2 years ago, I was in Uganda at Makerere University, and I got introduced to an HR research group. And while there, we over lunch, we were talking with some of the colleagues, and somebody came up with an idea to say, let's find ways of working together in matters of common interest. And so, you know, a bit skeptic to say, well, let's see where the collaboration will go. And the next thing, bam, somebody came up with this idea. We started finding ways of working together. And a few weeks ago, we just got a paper published in the journal Employee Relations, which was really based on an idea that came across as part of a lead that we as African scholars noticed amongst ourselves of the importance of working together. And that's what we need, to work together and not see each other as competitors, but to say, you know, you're looking at budgeting, you're looking at leadership. And I am so happy that we had a lot of people introducing themselves as HR managers. Well, I think you can benefit from my context. You know, that type of working together is what we're trying to advocate for. And if there's anything that I'm going to try and do in my power, is to assist you where I can in terms of accessing literature and direction. But you must also return the favor and help the next person as you do so. And the more we do that, the more we contribute to say and challenge the stereotypes. Can anything good come out of Africa? And here is this wonderful opportunity that each of you have to try and make this happen. So I want to go back, and then we can open up for questions to our what we are trying to do here. We are trying to just empower you, to give you pointers. It's coming now. We're just trying to empower you, to give you pointers as to how can you become better. How can you then, you must realize that before we talk about the proposal, the research, and everything else, we must first focus on you as a person who's going to be engaged in this activity. Your mindset, your readiness to all of this becomes critical. And once you sort out that and realizing it's a work in progress, an ongoing exercise of making sure you develop, then we've won the first part of the journey. I don't know if we have any comments or questions. Nothing to do with the proposal yet. We start that tomorrow, but I thought we focus on you as colleagues, and then thereafter we can talk about the other things as we go on. Any questions or comments people would like to have? Sorry for dragging long, but yeah.
Prof, it's Kenan Dube here.
Yes, sir.
And thank you very much for that foundational lecture you just given us. My question relates to not getting to the end of the journey, which can happen and could happen. And I did not see you touching on the issue of a resource limitation as a factor which must be considered as you walk the journey to the end. If you don't have resources and you struggle, that certainly will get to your mind. That certainly will get you to the suicide, path. To what extent can resources be made easier in the journey, which easier to acquire in the journey which we started?
Okay, thanks a lot for that. And I think it's an important question. I think, yes, my desire is that everybody makes it to the end. Sometimes challenges do happen, but what I'm picking up with certain types of resources, I want to talk about electronic resources, information, access, and some of you who have attended some of my workshops will attest to this. We are moving into the era of open access publishing, which simply means that some journals are realizing that there is benefit in removing restrictions that may exist in terms of how people access content. So you will notice open access journals are increasing, which simply means that anybody at any place at any time can access those resources, particularly electronic resources. My job is to at least try and help you to avoid to arrive to a point where you say, I am quitting because I could not find electronic resources to help me work with the idea that I've got. That's one. But there are other resources that are needed, which are institutional in terms of expertise. My job there also is to try and say to the principals who have tasked me with this responsibility, is to say, consider also inviting scholars in the diaspora who may be leading in certain areas and allocate them to some of the students with ideas here. I mean, I attend every 2 years. Last year we were in Lagos. Every 2 years, the African Academy of Management, a gathering of African scholars and scholars in the diaspora of African origin and friends of Africa, who can equally cover each and every topic that is presented today. So one of the things that we can try to do in that regard is to try and make sure that you don't quit because there is no human capital resources to help you. But you must also do the work yourself. In making sure that there also is a support system and a support mechanism to try and walk you through the journey. Families, a lot of you spoke about values and family being there, striking a balance, not always working all the time. Those are also things that we can do, but there should also be in place support mechanisms. Now, this is the commitment I'm making, that in the end, I may not be working with you on the program, but I will not turn you away if you were to write me an email to say, how do I manage situation A and B? I will probably try and do that. And in my role as an HOD in this role that I've taken up, I equally understand that we also need to be there for each other. So yes, the question is noted. We will try to make sure that everybody makes it to the finish line. I think it's Hilda.
Thank you, Prof. My question is on having 3 supervisors. How were you managing that? Did they know that they were all managing your research, or what was the benefit? And like you rightfully said, it's like having a polygamous relationship. Everyone has got their own different input. How did you manage it, and why did you do it?
A friend of mine joked and said, so one night did you go and sleep at one house, and another night did you go to another one? Not quite. I think what was fascinating is that at first it was challenging. But then what we then did was we split roles and responsibility. Kirsty was the more experienced of the supervisors because she had been in academia a little bit longer. Caroline, who then became very close with me, was more of a qualitative person, which is the method that I had adopted. And then Raslan was junior, but he had more contextual knowledge because I was trying to look at how modalities of distance learning can feature in organizational behavior. So basically, I framed the study using a distance learning context. So one of the things we did at the onset was to try and clarify roles. Up until now, I can confirm with you, the most that I have seen happening is 2 supervisors. And I can attest to this because in my role as a supervisor, even in my current institution, we have 2 supervisors. But the idea is not to scare you that you will have 3 supervisors. Sometimes if you're lucky, you'll have 1. But just see the skills as complementing to try and help make the best out of the situation that you're involved in. And conflict will happen. Conflict will happen. And part and parcel of the challenge for me was not to be the one that aids the conflict. Don't go and talk about the other supervisor to the other supervisor. And those are just little rules of etiquette that I developed to say, whatever he said, let it be transparent and open. It then led to another journey of making sure I write minutes at the start of the at the end of the meeting, and email those minutes to say this is what we agreed. It was painful but necessary, because it then avoided a certain confusion that can come with trying to deal with multiple supervisors.
Thank you, Prof. I'm answered.
Okay. Okay, I think we've tarried long. If there's no other question, anyone else who wants to come in before we then look ahead to tomorrow?
Yes, sorry, Prof. It's Philemon.
Go ahead, sir.
You earlier on spoke about the academy's language, and maybe we've not yet get to there, but as a way of advice, what advice could you give? Because try to go through those journals. You know, some of us are used to the business language that we speak every day. And this is totally divorced from the journals that we read. At times you get to be confused with the big words and all that. What would be the advice for a safe lending ped, you know, to try and understand them quickly and maybe benefit from them?
So thanks for that question. I laugh with some of my friends who laugh at me to say, of course we knew you were going to be an academic. What Form 4 student was busy reading that pink newspaper that came out on Thursdays? Is it Financial? Ray Choto was an editor there, man. Is it Financial Mail, Financial Gazette?
Financial Gazette, yes.
Financial Gazette. And I had a fascination at that level. And some people would say, of course, why you were reading that pink magazine, pink newsletter. I think that the first starting point, I would say, yesterday we did a session on academic writing made easy. I would advise you have a look at that hour and a half long, 2 hour long workshop where we showed you practically of how to do that. The next thing that you must also do is accept that the first couple of days in attempting this might be a bit challenging because of also the context that you've mentioned. But ideally, remember, the evaluation of your thesis or the work that you're going to produce will be evaluated in an academic context where certain rules and norms must be seen to exist in the work. So the suggestion is take time to read some of the work. It may be difficult. The more you read, obviously, the better it becomes. But in yesterday's talk, I also present platforms such as The Conversation, which is really a nice, useful outlet that translates academic research into a non-threatening language to help people understand the ideas. I think part and parcel of that work is the hard work that you must do. But it will get better with time, and the transition must be aided also by you putting a little bit of effort to make sure that you become better at it. Who knows? Next time talking to your kids, you'll start using words like conversely, we must be making sure that we save electricity in this house. And I think that is just how sometimes language just permeates through our everyday talk. Yeah, so we'll see as the journey goes on. Okay, so I think...
Okay, Prof, sorry.
Okay. Go ahead, sir.
Prof, still on the number of supervisors, is it your choice or is the school which allocates you 2 or 3 supervisors?
Different rules differ in certain institutions. Some institutions, because of capacity issues, are limited. So what we then do as part of this experience is that we want to produce a document. Each of you, as part of your assessment, is going to produce a proposal, and then I will then evaluate the proposals, and they will become maybe a useful feeder into providing MSU to say this is the assessment that came about as part of the teaching, and then they will then be given a platform to be able to do the allocations. Capacity is a big issue. In certain well-resourced institutions, you'll find one supervisor per student, but when challenges happen and there are fewer students, people go to supervisors. But really, it's something that I can put down as a pointer to go and ask the powers that be, and then get back to you on what we're going to do. I think let's not worry about that for now. Let's get into the nuances of what we want to achieve. And then maybe when the proposals are ready, and then we could have a session where we then bring someone from the institution to be able to tackle some of these questions. Okay, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us. So tomorrow we get into the business of what we want to achieve. And what I'm going to do also is, in addition to I'm going to send you these slides, of course, but I'm also going to send you tomorrow 2 examples of proposals. One is a qualitative proposal at PhD level, and the other one is a quantitative proposal at PhD level. And then we're going to then look at some similarities in both. And also, I will take time to also give you some free resources where you can access some dissertations that have been completed, which is part of this open access idea of the digital library that's happening, and that will be able to help you to shape ideas. I really appreciate you attending. I understand you are all busy people, and I hope, and I will put this video up, that all of this will serve as useful fodder for you when it now comes to after next week, when you now have to start putting together some form of a document to help you. What I have also done finally is I've written down the themes, what everybody is interested in. I will start so long between now and next week to start downloading some latest articles, maybe in a folder, put 50 articles related to AI, 50 articles related to worker unionism, and the themes that emerged out of this. And then I will, at the end of next week, share with you the links to all of this. I want to make all of them public. In fact, what I'm going to do is I've got some related to organizational behavior, which I will send. Don't worry if they are not related to your topic, but these are just files that I sent on different themes of organizational behavior with some recent articles to get you started on the journey. Thank you very much for attending, and I will see you tomorrow.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.